So thank you all very much. It's a real pleasure to be here, be back in New York. I was at Columbia before coming to Johns Hopkins, which wooed me in for many reasons, but it's great to be back in New York City. So I'm going to talk a bit about this paradox of hunger and obesity that our world is experiencing. Just take a look at these figures. On the right is the Abubakar family from Darfur, Sudan. They're living in Chad in a refugee camp. That food in front of them is food assistance from the World Food Program, costs them about $1 a week. On the right is the Revis family in North Carolina, middle-class family. Their food costs them about $300 a week. Look at the stark contrast here. The Abubakar family struggling every day to survive, feeling the extremes of hunger. The Revis family putting themselves at great risk for obesity, diabetes, heart disease, with the overly processed packaged foods, a lot of food, a lot of snacking. Why do we have this in the world, these massive extremes? Well, let me talk a little bit about the paradox and just show you some statistics. So take a look at these numbers. Maybe some of you have seen them. I see them every day, and I'm still in shock. We have almost 1 billion people who go to bed hungry every night. And that number is rising. It's been rising for the last 3 years. Why? Climate change and conflict. 150 million children are stunted. They're short, like me. But more importantly, they're cognitively impaired. Their brains do not develop. If you don't act on the first 2 years of life, that window shuts. They'll never reach their full potential. They'll never have the work capacity that all of you in this room have. And they'll never have that earning potential. Take a look at that last number. 2.1 billion people are overweight and obese. That's everywhere in the world. This number is exponentially rising. Rural, urban, poor, wealthy. This is incredible. This is a massive, massive burden. Right now, 1 in 3 people in the world are malnourished, and if we don't act in the next decade, 1 in 2 will be malnourished. Every country has a malnutrition problem. We see it in the United States, we see it in Kenya, we see it everywhere. So there's lots of reasons for this paradox of hunger and undernutrition and overnutrition. Again, conflict, climate change, population pressure, disparities. I'm going to talk about diets being at the crux of this issue. So I'm going to bring up 3 things. First, our diets are killing us. That which is meant to nourish is no longer nourishing. Diets are now the top risk factor of disease, disability, and death. Our diets, they're killing us. More than tobacco smoke, more than air pollution, which we've been hearing a lot about, it's our diets, these suboptimal diets. Our diets are also becoming less sustainable. The kind of demand for certain food products, particularly large ruminants like beef, is having an impact on the environment. It's taking its toll, not only on greenhouse gas emissions, which is warming the planet, but on land use, water use, deforestation, and biodiversity loss. Now, other foods have environmental impacts. It's not just beef, the cows, depending on where they're grown, how far that food has to move. But overall, as wealth increases around the world, we're seeing a demand for a different type of diet that is having a significant impact on the planet. Our diets are also not equitable. Depending on where you live, it can be very difficult to access a healthy diet. There's many food deserts in urban places, poor neighborhoods. Rural places are often being left behind. This is an image showing you Seattle, beautiful city. On the left is property value. Green is the wealthiest. Of course, it hugs the beautiful waterways of Seattle. On the right is a healthy eating index, a measure of healthy eating. These maps almost look identical. So the wealthier you are, the easier it is to access healthy foods and a healthy diet. So, what do we do about this? First of all, we need governments to care. We need governments to govern their food system. Who owns the food system of a country? Food is produced, it's moved, it's manipulated, it hits markets, and you as a consumer makes a choice of what to purchase and buy. Where does government come in to help facilitate healthy diets? Not one country has a holistic food policy. We have agriculture strategies, we have dietary guidelines, but no country in the world has a food policy that's promoting healthy diets. We need governments to think about taxes on unhealthy foods, soda. Bloomberg was very famous for the tax policy he tried to implement in New York. Subsidies. We also need better agriculture aligning to diets. Right now, if you look to the right, this is what we're producing in the world. 75% of the land used for agriculture is growing 12 crops in the world. Now, mind you, we have thousands of different kinds of species of foods to be grown. 12 crops dominate 75% of the land. Maize, rice, wheat, potatoes, soy, sugar, oil. That is not aligned to what we should be eating around fruits and vegetables, as Dr. Brawley said. Healthy fats, nuts, legumes, seeds. We need to align what's being produced worldwide to the kinds of foods we should be eating. Consumers need to shift, right? We as consumers need to change our own behaviors. We can't leave it all to the farmers. So how do we do that? How do we realign ourselves and create a different kind of demand? Right now, we're consuming a lot of processed packaged foods, high in salt, sugar, and fat. Not enough of the healthy foods, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. We need to change that demand, and a great place to start is in schools, particularly young kids. Their taste buds are changing and they're forming. So school meal programs can be incredibly important in shaping the future diet of the planet. We're really in a situation now, the food system is really off the rails. It's like a high-speed train. It's not broken. It's not like a broken car that you need to fix. It's a fast-moving train, and it's gone off the rails, so we need to get it back on track. So we're really at this breaking point on how we're going to feed 10 billion people by 2050. How are we going to do it? If we don't act, we are really risking ourselves catastrophic consequences, not only for ourselves, but for the planet. And if we let the planet get to a 2-degree warmed world, the Earth systems will take over, and we are no longer in control. We lose control of the way the Earth will shift. If we do act, we're really in a win-win situation. We'll address the paradox, the multiple burdens of malnutrition. We could potentially recover from the devastation that the planet has already faced and save the species as well as our food system that bears the diets that we need so badly. So the issue is vast. I'm sure I've completely depressed all of you. But there's lots that can be done, and you know, I have a very short talk, but individual action matters. It counts. So the first thing I would argue is you need to vote with your fork and vote with your dollars. What you decide to eat, who you vote for, how you spend your money on what kind of food shapes supply. It shapes the food industry. You as the consumer have power. If you think in that way, you can really shape the food system. Get to know your farmer. Get to know where your food comes from. All of these people are farmers. The farmer in the world, the average age is 60 years old. If the world is going urban and the farmer's getting older, who is going to grow our food? Get to know them. Learn their names. Go to the local markets. Support your local economies. Get to know those people that tend to be the most food insecure. They're the ones who are producing and manipulating your food. So get to know your farmer. The last thing I'll just say is, this gets into a bit of the ethics world, but do we have the right to eat wrongly? Do you as an individual have the right anymore to say, you know what, who cares? I'm gonna eat a hamburger, I'm gonna eat French fries, I'm gonna smoke when I want. Can you just eat whatever you want? I would argue that what you eat does matter. It matters not only for yourself, for your own individual health, your own individual well-being, but it matters for your local community and the global community at large, and most importantly, the planet. Thank you.